Welcome to my continuation of key scene analysis of Sweet Bird of Youth. This will complete Act 1, Scene 1 after Princess has woken up. I hope you found the first video helpful and that this one also sheds further light into the play that may not be so. Let's begin after Princess has had her momentary disorientation where she doesn't know who Chance is and she's begging for oxygen. She totally acts like a diva. Let's forward a little bit of that. And she's still a little unsure. She's not quite sure who Chance is, but she's a lot more calm and more rational. So she asks something first that the audience has been wondering too. Did we sleep here together? Because their original shot with her asleep on the bed and him sitting up seemed to indicate a sexual relationship. But Chance replies, yes, but I didn't molest you. Playful tone, even though molest in our day and age doesn't seem playful, but he's joking around. But the truth of the matter that he's trying to get at is we did sleep here together in the same bed, but we didn't have sex. And Princess strangely reacts by laughing sadly. So it seems to indicate she wishes they had. And the fact that she jokes around saying, oh, are you cheating on me? It's playful, but it has an underlying sense of desolation. Maybe she has been cheated on in the past, or she expected more from this young boy, even though she barely recalls who he is. Chance replies with something that seems to come out of left field. You're a nice monster. Monster is not a term you would associate necessarily with a well-known actress, even if she's not quite as popular anymore. Princess wants to come across as glamorous, fashionable, fabulous. Monster does not equate. But this is an important metaphor that's going to continue at the end of the scene and throughout the play, especially in Act 2. And in Act 2, it gets specifically connected to the fairy tale Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack and the Beanstalk tells the story of a young farm boy who goes off to sell a cow and is bamboozled into selling it for magic beans. His mother scolds him and says, you're an idiot, of course they're not magic beans, and tosses the beans out the window. Turns out they were magic beans, and they led to the growth of a giant beanstalk, which when Jack climbs up, he finds a kingdom ruled by a giant. That's the monster. But this monster has a goose that lays golden eggs. So in this metaphor, Chance is the young boy, the hero, and Princess is the monster. But this monster provides an opportunity for a golden future for the young hero. So Chance is hoping that Princess will be this for him. Princess then goes to ask two questions. Are you young? Are you very good looking? Questions that Chance has been asking of himself. They seem just superficial questions. Remember, she's broken her glasses, and yet there's something deeply important underlying in those questions. He no longer feels young. He's only 29, but he no longer feels young based on what he's experienced before. Remember those original quotes of him describing him as ravaged and thinning hair. You don't equate that with 29, and yet he does. And when Chance replies, I used to be the best looking boy in this town. At first glance, it appears really arrogant, but the verb he uses is important to undercut that. Used to be. So the past tense means he feels he's way past his prime. He no longer feels like he has all these opportunities in front of him that his youth and his beauty can hopefully provide. He feels that moment's gone. Might be left for him is through Princess. That first real interaction with him is pretty playful, and in fact, depending on how the actors play it, can be really flirtatious too. It contrasts starkly with the end of the scene, because of course now Princess has found out that Chance is trying to blackmail her and has been recording the whole conversation so that she can admit that she's using drugs and has taken them over state lines and all of that. At that point, Princess changes. She went from being completely disoriented, very dependent on Chance, to flirting with him, trying to be seductive, to just being vicious. And the monster metaphor comes back. When monster meets monster, one monster has to give way, and it will never be me. Notice the caps for emphasis. She's trying to take control of the situation. She understands she's caught in a difficult position. She doesn't have all her memories back at this point. She probably has a hangover. This boy has recorded her, but she is smarter and she's experienced more, so she's trying to take back her power. The metaphor of Jack and the Beanstalk has changed. Whereas before she was a monster and he was a young hero. Now they're both monsters. They're on equal footing when monster meets monster. They both have bad intentions. They're not the best of people. They're both been corrupted in some way. So she's trying to put them on that same footing. But she's trying to say she's better at this whole game than he is. She says, I'm an older hand at it with much more natural aptitude at it than you have. She doesn't usually like to talk about her age. She wants to appear younger. But age also brings experience. And dealing with the business of Hollywood, which can be cutthroat and vicious, she's learned to deal with people like Chance who try to blackmail her or get something out of her. And she says, I'm much better at it. I'm natural at it. I've had experience. You're just a country bumpkin. You're just a southern boy who barely has had any life experiences. And she also uses the idiom, when you put the cart a little in front of the horse. That means you didn't do things in the right order. You did step 3 when you needed to have done step 1. So you did this all wrong. That step that he missed, she makes it sexual. She says, please pay close attention while I tell you the special conditions under which I will keep you in employment after your miscalculation. So she's gathered that he's some kind of escort or gigolo and is basically saying, I will not make any deal with you whatsoever until you fulfill your promise, and that promise is sexual. So it's interesting that in the 1950s, Tennessee Williams was able to write a female part where she takes charge, she takes control, and puts the man in a vulnerable position. It says a lot about his forward thinking. She then connects this to her career. She has to be this way because she can no longer rely on getting jobs. So she has to be really careful with her money. And she says, forget the legend that I was and the ruin of that legend. This has nothing to do with that. But the fact that she calls herself a legend, arrogant, much like Chance, she thinks highly of herself, but it's in past tense. Again, much like Chance. Now that legend has been ruined. She then says something really offhandedly. Whether or not I have a disease of the heart that places an early terminal date on my life. No mention of that, no reference to it, whatever. The fact she just throws that and doesn't dwell on it, doesn't have this long speech about it, seems to indicate it's true. So it is likely she has some kind of life-threatening illness, which could explain why she acts the way she does, why she doesn't care if she's using drugs or alcohol or going off with men she barely knows. If she's not going to live much longer, she feels like what's there to lose. But she doesn't want to talk about death. So she does not have a long speech about it. She says never mention that odious subject, that terrible word. People think because of her behavior, her risk-taking, that she must have a death wish. She must want to accelerate death. But she says it's not that. I want life. And this really helps highlight the key theme of aging. The characters, including Chance, although he's young, are so afraid of aging, losing their beauty, losing their power. But it's really because they're afraid of dying. To be afraid of aging is to be afraid of dying. And that's exactly what Princess Cosmonopolis is afraid of, because of her career, but because of the fact that she may also have a terminal illness. Now, this is at the end. Before the end of the scene, pretty much in the middle, she has this great monologue where she talks more about her career. This is before she's found out that Chance is recording her. Very important, the dramatic element, the stage direction Tennessee Williams includes. She turns to the audience and intermittently changes the focus of her attention. So technically speaking, it's not a pure monologue because Chance is still there. She's not alone on stage. And yet, the way she turns to the audience, the fact that the lighting is probably only on her and not anybody else, makes it a monologue in function, because it allows the audience to connect with her directly, for her to tell her inner thoughts and inner feels directly to the audience. And it's all about her career. She starts by saying, for years they all told me that it was ridiculous of me to feel that I couldn't go back to the screen or the stage as a middle-aged woman. They told me. So her whole entourage of people, her managers, producers, casting directors, all those kind of people have been telling her she can still act. But she sees the writing on the wall. And before people stop calling her for jobs, she wants to make the decision herself. This is a woman who likes to be in control. So the audience can interpret it two ways. She's either delusional and is so paranoid that she's going to lose jobs that she thinks people are wrong, or she's really wise. And we know from the background article that you guys read that it is true that in the 1950s and even today, actresses past their early 30s got less and less roles. So maybe it's smarter for her to decide, I should give up acting. So she retired. She wasn't kicked out. She didn't stop getting roles. She retired because she felt that was the right time to go. And she says, retired where to? To the dead planet, the moon. Notice the caps of retired. So even though she made the decision for herself, it was something horrible for her because it basically banished her, a self-banishment away from her career and the place she wanted to be. So she says she went to the dead planet, the moon. Obviously, the moon's not a planet, but the idea is that it's dead. It's lifeless. It doesn't have enough oxygen. You can't survive on it. So once she gave up her career, she could no longer live. So it makes sense that she's been using coping mechanisms like drugs instead. Continues to elaborate on this by saying, I really was once an artist. So I retired to the moon, but the atmosphere of the moon doesn't have any oxygen in it. I began to feel breathless in that withering of country, of time coming after time, not meant to come after. So the inevitability of time, aging, death, that all comes into the forefront here. And it's because she can no longer act. Acting was just not a career, a way to gain fame and money, although it did those things. It was a way for her to pursue her art. Much like a painter needs to be able to paint, a sculptor be able to sculpt, a musician be able to create music. She needed to act. And when she could no longer do that, she felt like she was banished to somewhere lifeless, withered. So she needed oxygen. So now it makes sense why she wakes up panic-stricken and demands oxygen. It's psychological, not really so physical. Because she can no longer act, she feels in this weightless world of the moon. So the oxygen is a way for her to come back and feel a sense of gravity, grounding her in place. This whole time, Chance has been preparing a marijuana cigarette for her. And she says that once she lost the ability to act, she needed coping mechanisms, discovered this and other practices like it. Alcohol, the pink pill she took earlier, drugs, even sex are things that she uses to forget about the fact she can no longer act. Because acting for her was a passion, a wild passion, that she ends by comparing it to a tiger, an unsatisfied tiger that she questions in the nerves jungle. Why is anything anywhere unsatisfied and raging? So now, instead of a monster, she's a tiger, still fierce, still something to be fearful of, to be reckoned with, but beautiful, majestic, breathtaking. You can't take your eyes off the tiger in the wild, like you can't take off your eyes of a captivating actress on stage. But it's unsatisfied because it can no longer do the thing that sustains it. The tiger can no longer hunt. She can no longer act. So it's a really apt metaphor for her. So that ends our key scenes for Act 1, Scene 1. So you can complete questions 14 through 28 of your guiding questions. Next week will be all about Act 1, Scene 2. Once again, I hope this proved fruitful for your analysis and that we can continue to do this and hopefully discussions really soon. Thank you, everyone.